Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Juliet. So in today's video we are going to be making a short off shoulder dress with a balloon sleeve. So here I have my fabric. It's folded into two using the biggest measurement, which is the hip measurement, divided by 4 plus 5 inch of allowance. This is for the front. And then I placed my tape 4 inches from the beginning of the fabric, and then I marked the length plus 2.5 inches. So it's an off shoulder and I'm taking off 4 inches. That is why I placed 4 inches from the beginning of the fabric, and then I marked the length. So here I'm marking the bust span measurement, which is the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 plus half inch of allowance. So nipple to nipple measurement is 7 divided by 2, that is 3.5, and then plus half inch, making it 4. So I marked 4 from the top to the bottom. So after rolling it together, I'm going to place my tape 4 inches at the beginning again, and then I will mark the shoulder to nipple line, and then the shoulder to the under bust. That's it. Then I will move over and mark it again so I get a straight line. So using my ruler, I'm going to connect all these points together before we move to the next step. So next, on this under bust line, I marked 1.5 from that nipple to nipple line. I marked 1.5 inches all the way down. I'm going to use my ruler to connect it together. So next off, using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect to the nipple point, like so. So on this upper part, I marked 1 inch from that line outward, and then half inch from that nipple to nipple line inwards. So I'm going to connect both points to the nipple point. So next I'm going to be cutting. At first I notched the upper part so we don't mix it up at the end of the day. So this is it for the front. Next we're going to be cutting the back. Also on this down part, I'm going to mark 2 inches upwards and notch. This is going to help when I'm fixing the lining later on. So I marked 2 inches upwards and I notched it. So here is the back. It's also the hip measurement divided by 4 plus extra 5 inches. So placing my tape 4 inches from the top, the length is the same as the front, the gown length plus 2.5 inches of allowance. So here from this point I am marking 1.5 inches, which is the zip allowance. I'm going to connect that all the way down. So next, from the zip line, I'm going to mark the shoulder divided by 2 minus 1.5 inches. So divide your shoulder into 2 and then subtract 1.5 inches from it. Then I marked what I got here. I came down a bit and I marked the same thing, and then I marked the armhole, which is 4 inches. So from this zip line again, I placed my tape. I marked quarter of the bust measurement I'm working with, starting from the zip line. I marked it there, and then I curved my armhole from that point. So next I marked 9 inches from the shoulder, still placing my tape from 4 inches, and then I marked 2 inches before the hip line. So the hip line I'm working with here is 23, so 2 inches before 23, that is 21 inches, and then the half length. So on that half length I went in by half inch, and then I'm going to slant it out to that 9 inches and then down to the 2 inches before the hip line. So this is going to give the back and eliminate the zip bulge. So next I'm cutting. I'm going to divide it into 2 and then trim off that half inch that I went in by. So on this down part again, I'm going to come up by 2 inches and then notch. I'll do the same thing on the zip side. So next I went on to cut lining pieces for both the front and the back. So remember we added 2.5 for allowance to the length, but our lining is 3.5 inches shorter than the main fabric. So the main fabric is going to fold over. As you can see, that is the front, that's the back, and then these are the front pieces. The same thing, the lining is shorter by 3.5 inches. So we added 2.5, but the lining is shorter by 3.5. So here is my pad. We're going to be padding this dress. So here's the pad. Here's the center piece for the front. I'm going to extend that under bust line to the other side like so. And then I placed it on my pad like this. That line is at the edge. So next I'm going to trace the sides of this center piece. So placing my tape from 4 inches, I marked 7 inches down. 7 inches down like so. That's where the pad is going to stop for the center piece. So I trace the sides and then I'm going to connect the top and cut out. So this is it for the center piece. Next we're going to be cutting the side pieces. So the side, this is the side. I placed it at the edge like so. As you can see, that is the under bust. I'm going to trace the sides as you can see. And then from the top, I'm going to mark 8 inches. So I placed my under bust measurement on the under bust and then I located 8 inches upwards and then I made a mark. So from this point now I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple measurement I used, which is 4 inches, and then I curved to meet the top and the down. So next I'm going to cut. We'll be needing 2 of this. So I'm going to place this piece again and cut the second one. So this part has a shiny part, which is the part that glues to the fabric. So I'm going to make sure I place either shiny side to shiny side or the smooth side to the smooth side. That's the only way we're going to get pieces that will fit on the opposite side. So next I'm going to iron it on the pieces like so. Using the iron, I like to iron it this way. It glues faster like this for me. So after ironing it, I'm going to trim off the excess hanging by the sides, and I will do the same thing for these side pieces. So next I'm going to go join them together. These are the 3 front pieces. So I'm going to place them like so, and then starting from the down, make sure you start from the down, very important. I'm going to sew using 1/2 inch all the way till we get to the top part, and then we'll place the second piece again, right sides facing each other, and sew using 1/2 inch. So I notched the center, the upper part, so it's going to be easy to know the part that is up for the center piece. That is it. I'm going to go do the same thing for the lining. I'm going to go join, that's where the notch for the upper part is. I transferred it to the lining as well. I'm going to go join these 3 pieces together using 1/2 inch, and that is it for the front. Then for the back piece, we're going to go, this is the right side. I'm going to place the lining on top of it like so, then sew the down part using 1/2 inch, then pull it over to the upper part, and then sew across like that to the top, and then sew the neck part as well using 1/2 inch. Okay, let me show you one more time. Here's the right side of the main fabric. I place the lining on it. I'll go sew using 1/2 inch like so, then pull it up after sewing, and then sew again by the zip side using 1/2 inch. Then I'll close the neckline part like so. So after joining the front pieces, this is what the lining is looking like. I'm going to trim the excess hanging on the top part. This is completely normal and it's not going to affect the dress in any way. So using my iron, I'm going to iron it a bit so that it is smooth and clean. That is it for the lining piece. And then for the back piece, this is it. After sewing here, I folded and then I closed the zip side, and this is what it's looking like. So next I'm going to turn it to the right side and give it a good press. I will be repeating the same thing for the other back piece. So next up, I'm going to be ironing the front. I'm going to open the seam allowance apart, but first I notched the underbust point, as you can see. That's going to help it relax. I'm going to open the seams apart and iron. Then I will use the breast ball to iron the bust part, as you will see in a minute. So after ironing, I'm going to trim off the excess on this main fabric as well. A bit of excess is hanging on the sides. I'm going to trim those off. So after trimming, next we're going to turn the upper part and the lower part with lining. So here's the lining. I'm going to place it like so and go sew on the upper part, after which I'll pull it down a bit and then sew on the lower part as well using half inch allowance. Then for the back, I am going to mark the dart and then the zip line. So after turning it with the lining, the zip line is going to be 1 inch and no longer 1.5. We have used half inch to turn it with lining. So here I'm going to mark 1 inch all the way up, following that curve at the back like so till you get to the top. So we're going to go sew on that line, and then starting from 4 inches at the top, I marked 9 inches, which is 1 inch above the bust line and then the half length, and then I marked 2 inches before the hip line, which is 21 inches. So from that zip line I marked 4 inches on the hip line and then 4 inches on the 9 inches point, and then I connected with the straight line. Remember, we already took out half inch from the waistline, so if you mark from there you will not get the accurate measurement. So on that waistline I marked half inch on both sides of that line, and then I am connecting to the down like so, and that is the dart. Turning to this other side, I'm going to repeat the same thing. I will mark the dart and the zip line. So the zip line at this other side is just to guide me to mark the dart. It's really not necessary, one side is enough. So I'm going to mark the dart again, 4 inches on the hip line and then 4 inches on this chest line. I will connect and then mark half inch on both sides at the half length point. So after connecting, we are going to go sew like so. I'm going to hold it like this and then sew on that line like that all the way out. So here is the front piece. I've sewn the up and the down part. Next I will turn it to the right side and then give it a good press. And then here is the back piece. I've sewn the zip line and then the darts. So next off, that's where the zip is going to stop. So I back stitched there a couple of times to make it tighter. And then from the down part I marked 7 inches upwards. That is going to be the slit behind. So I'm going to go sew that point across. So from that 1 inch I will sew outward like the way I drew the line like so to form the slit. So I've sewn it. This is what it's looking like. So this slit is not going to have a stitch on the outside. It's going to overlap, but there will be no stitch on the outside. So after sewing it, I am ironing the zip line. You can actually iron this before going to sew that point close, but I don't know why I didn't do that. But you can iron it first and then go back and sew it the way I explained. So I'm going to iron the dart as well. Iron them really flat. So after that I'm going to place hemming gum on one side of the down part. As you can see, I'm going to place hemming gum on this other side and then glue it down. Then I will open the part to that 7 inches point later on, which is going to now be the slit. It will be in place without any stitch showing on the right side. So next off, I am going to mark the measurements I'm working with. So I already have a line for the waistline, so I'm marking the hip line, which is 23 inches. And then here from that zip line I'm going to mark quarter of the bust measurement I'm working with, and then on the half length line I will mark quarter of the half length round measurement, and then the same thing for the hip. Starting from that zip line I mark quarter of the hip measurement I'm working with, that is hip divided by 4. Then on the hem part we're going to subtract 1.5 inches from whatever we got from dividing the hip by 4, and that is what we are going to mark there. So next I'm using my ruler to connect all the points together. So next on this hip line I am curving it out so we don't have a pointy hip. I'll turn to this other side like so and then repeat the same thing. I will mark the half length. I will mark the hip line, 23 inches for this person. and then I will mark quarter of the bust measurement here, starting from the zip line, and then quarter of the half length round on this line, and then quarter of the hip measurement on this line, and then quarter of the hip measurement minus 1.5 on the down part. So using my ruler, I'm going to connect all the points together. So next I'm going to open it up and then confirm again, but this time around I'm checking for half. So I'm going to place my tape from one line to the other line to check if I have half of the hip measurement, and then half of the half length round, and half of the bust measurement. So if everything is correct, we'll go on to pinning to the front. If not, you adjust. So next I'm going to place the front and the back pieces, right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to pin them together. First, I will make sure that the center front, which you can already see a crease. You can actually iron yours so that the crease will be a lot more obvious. So I'm making sure that center front is sitting exactly on the center back. Once I make sure of that, I will pin by the sides, and then I will continue making sure the center front is sitting on the center back until I pin to the upper part. So after pinning, I'm going to go sew on those lines like so, both sides. So after sewing, this is what we have. I'm going to reduce the seam allowances to 1.5 inches. So I'm just marking to make sure I get exactly that, and then I will use my zigzag scissors to trim it off, or you can trim with the normal scissors and then overlock it. After that, I'm going to now trim the armhole. Using the back armhole, I follow the same shape and then trim out the front armhole at this point. So next I will turn it to the right side and then iron it, and I will also open the back slit or the back vent. So after opening the vent, that is what it's looking like. I'm going to iron the sides and then we'll move over to the sleeve. So here's the sleeve. I have my fabric here is folded into two. It's measuring 15 inches wide. That's 15 inches on fold. All in all, it's a total of 30 inches folded into two. And then for the length, I measured the length of my sleeve plus extra 5 inches. So if you want your sleeve to have the balloon effect, you have to add extra inches to it. I added 5. Next, I'm going to go make elastic casings on the upper part and the lower part of the sleeve pieces. So we're going to make a casing enough for a 1/4 inch elastic to pass through. Fold a little and then fold again. Let's say 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and then 3/4 inch. I will do the same for the two sleeves. So after making the elastic casings, this is what our sleeve pieces are looking like. I'm going to fold them into two and then trace out the armhole using the dress. So I'm going to place the dress on the sleeve. This is the wrong side of the dress out. I placed it and then I traced it out. I'm going to be cutting that exactly so, and then I placed it again to mark where the seam allowance started. That is where the seam on the dress itself is, so that is where we're going to sew the sleeve. From there I will sew it out. But before then, we're going to add the elastic that I am going to be using. So I have 7 inches of elastic. So I'm using the same 7 inches on the upper part and on the down part. So I have the bicep I'm working with is 10. So I subtracted 3 inches from that, and then I'm using elastic of 7 inches. So using my safety pin, I'm going to pass the elastic through. Once I get it in to this point, I will pin it in place so it doesn't go all in. And then when I get it out to this other point, I'll remove the safety pin and pin this side as well in place. For now, I will repeat the same thing for this down part. So next I'm going to go place it right sides together, and then I will join using that point and then all the way out to the down part. I'll repeat the same thing for the second sleeve. So here are they, all the sleeves together. You can go ahead and overlock before we continue. Next, we are going to join the sleeve to the main dress. Okay, we're going to join the sleeve to the dress. So matching this is the side seam of the dress. I'm going to match it with the side seam of the sleeve, right sides together. So right sides together, side seams matching, and then I'm going to pin at that point, and then I will pin to this other side as well, and then this other side as well. And then we're going to take it to the machine now and sew all the way like that, using about half of an inch. And then we'll do the same thing for the second sleeve. Turn it to the right side, match side seams together, and then pin all the way up. So I'm going to go sew the sleeves in place, and then I will attach the zipper at the back, and that will be it. I will do it and show you the final look. So here is it all done. The dress is ready and it is looking so beautiful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please give this video a like if you learned anything from it. Share it with your friends, leave a comment below, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I will see you in my next video. Bye.